I've got exactly this thing here. So it just gives you this element. And I like it just for the sake of the levels that you can create and like the development of the art, because it's so young and people are just pushing it always. There's like every day there's a new trick, a new element, a new idea, and people are still discovering what can be done with it actually. The more you understand about yourself, the more you understand about the work you want to make, you either, add on a new layer or you just take off a new one. Like you just can't be the same person. The survival of the friendliest is I think, for me, the best way to try and navigate the industry, because there's no way I would be talking to you if we hadn't had a good relationship 10 years ago.
Welcome to the StageLink podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the StageLink podcast. My name is Anna Robb, and today we're talking with Sophie Duncan. Sophie is an award-winning creative director, choreographer and performer excelling in theatre, circus, radio, TV, film and special events. Specialising in aerial pole and pole dance, she's performed with Cirque du Soleil, Bebe Rexha, don't know if I'm saying that properly, and Glastonbury's opening ceremony. Since 2021, she's toured globally with Florentina Holzinger's productions, showcasing skills in stunts, harness work and operatic vocals, while serving as associate choreographer for the Year Without Summer. Holding 11 pole titles, including Pole Theatre UK 2023, Sophie teaches at the National Centre for Circus Arts and hosts the Public Showering podcast. Her choreography and direction span contemporary theatre, circus and short films, with notable collaborations like Columbinus, winner of Best Show at Bucharest Teen Theatre Festival. A skilled DJ and radio presenter, Sophie's versatility and creativity make her a valuable asset to any production. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Hi, I've never heard anyone actually read it. When you have to make bios for things and then you read it back. It's quite funny. I'm like, yeah, it's quite good.
Sophie does all the things.
No, oh man, I know, but it is hard. I think anyone, especially in our industry, when someone says, "Can you write as a bio?" you immediately go, "Oh, right, yeah, sure. Let me do a bio. Let me try and figure out which angle I need to write it from now."
Well, I know you well, but I've always seen you as a person that's been very sort of experimental and enthusiastic in your career. Would you say that that's kind of the way you approach taking work and sort of what drives you to the variations that you've done in your work?
I think I have to definitely say that everything I've done has definitely come from a passion. And even if I'm not the kind of person that would just try something just to see. I think I would watch other people do things for quite a while and then sort of consider it. And then I think once I'm in. And then it's really full on like pole dancing, because I remember prior to working with Dragone and meeting you at the Halt Dancing Water, I didn't really know anything about circus. I'd never been in a circus company. I'd never even really registered the existence of Cirque du Soleil. So when I was in the show, the first thing and the only thing I'll ever remember about walking into the training center in Belgium was seeing a rehearsal of the Straps Act and just seeing 4 guys, these huge, massive dudes, just fly over to me with the incredible Straps music. And I think that's the first time I'd ever set eyes on a circus discipline. So but then I did all of the 3.5 years I did in Dragone, left for a little bit, discovered pole a little bit with a friend because they wanted to exchange choreography for pole dancing. So I was sure. And then it wasn't until the second time I came to Macau that I actually started doing pole dancing. And then it was this is my skill. This is what I'm going to do 5 days a week. Oh, look, there's competitions. Oh, look, actually, this is my new discipline. Oh my God, I'm in Cirque du Soleil. That was, there's suddenly 2 years of suddenly training and performing it to having 5 years to even consider the idea of having a discipline in circus. But I don't know, it just went with it. I always wanted a discipline, but I just could not figure out what was the discipline. But I'm happy that pole dancing is the one, because I love it now.
And what was it about pole dancing that you were drawn to?
It's funny because I have to call out my own bluff and be exactly that kind of girl that was like, I'm not going to pole dance because it's just girly and I don't really understand. Like, it's for strippers, which is now something that I have to really explain to people how harsh and rude and like unreasonable that is to say. So like, I think pole dancing now, as I enjoy it and see it, is it's just literally another platform. So obviously we have our stage here, but then with pole, I've got exactly this thing here. So it just gives you this element. And I like it just for the sake of the levels that you can create and like the development of the art, because it's so young and people are just pushing it always. There's like every day there's a new trick, a new element, a new idea, and people are still discovering what can be done with it actually. And there's just lots of different thoughts about it, because of course you have this sort of original OG strippers. You have this world which a lot of pole dancers, especially new to it, kind of like to try and hide. But you cannot deny that it can come from sex work, and that's what it is. And it's something to be proud of and celebrated. It is the history of what it is. But then you also have this world of like, actually, you have Malakam and you have Chinese pole. So these worlds also collide a little bit. So I'll just say that. But you have this circus world that also owns part of it as well, either an Indian style or a Chinese style. So then this happens. And then you've got the middle bit where you have people like me that are kind of putting theatrical elements into it, making it have stories. You have these competitions, you have the sports part. And again, like I said, sometimes these worlds don't get on at all. And sometimes they do. So I think that's what I like about it. I think it's the chaos of people trying to own what exactly it is that I enjoy. But then as a creative, it's just, I've done so much stuff with it at this point. Like I've told really in-depth stories. I've like sang with it. I present it now. I have a whole podcast about it. So I think because of its age, there's just a lot of growth within it. It's not like a super defined sport. And I like the fact that people don't really understand what it is. I love when I say to someone, oh yeah, I'm a pole dancer. And they go, really? And I go, ah. And then I can explain everything about it. It's a really beautiful and incredible art form, actually. And it's, yeah, depending on who you are, there's a lot of incredible people doing their version of it. And it's, yeah, I like it. I like it for its youthfulness, basically.
Yeah, and it's had such a evolution or revolution of the art over the last sort of 15 years, I guess, as it came out of the clubs and into a sport and into a competition and into art forms and into circus. And like you said, it is interesting. There are disciplines in circus that are reminiscent of it. So that collision, you probably meet that right there in the middle, don't you? As a dancer and then as a person that entered the circus.
Basically, yeah, because the way that I actually got into it, it was, like I said, the second time I was in Macau, I was there working with MGM, and we were there to build this show called Destiny, which for all a matter of reasons didn't happen. But we were there for a year. And it meant that we basically just didn't have a show to go to. We didn't really have a job because we were fully paid, which was amazing. And so our director at the time was making us useful basically within MGM, like putting us in events, giving us all these things to do just so that we were getting our money's worth essentially. But then it meant that I had all this free time and I happened to live next to a pole studio. So I was just like, well, okay, I'm going to figure this thing out. I'd done a couple of classes as an exchange with a friend, and I just started to be able to go into a studio on my own, because that was the thing. Like I was 27 when I started doing it. And I remember for the first time being in a studio with this bar, being like, I actually don't know what to do. Like, I actually don't know how to use this. And then when I go into the studio, yeah, exactly. Like, what is this thing? Like, I can sort of climb it, but I don't make it look eloquent or interested or anything. But someone had given me the bug for it. So I was like, I don't want to ever go into a studio again and not know how to actually play with this thing. So yeah, so then I had this studio available to me. I started working with Valerie Anderson, who owned the studio, and had some privates with her just to kind of get it going. And then I started going to group classes, which again, as a professional artist, it's really fun to go and do muggle classes. Basically, go and be with the other people. Because what I did have is all of my dance training. So I had the lines, I had like musicality, I had the performance skill, but I just didn't have the strength or the knowledge of the equipment yet. So I really enjoyed being in the position of being the novice, but with like a really high level of everything else. And that was just really nice. So like I kind of got on with everyone because they were, I don't know, the pole world, or at least in that studio, was very friendly and very open. Like they knew I worked at the House of Dance and Water previously, so I had that kind of like badge of honor in a way. But at the same time, I was working with people that had been doing pole dance for maybe 2 or 3 years, and they were like much higher level than me. So it was nice that we had this mixture, because I guess when you are a professional artist, it's very rare that you actually go into a class with other people and just share the community, like actually get into the community, not just sort of like, well, I'm a professional, so I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I was doing. Okay. And I was scared. I was scared shitless. like really, like the poles that were in that studio were really high, and we were learning drops and like looking down at the floor. And even though I'd done lots of harness work and like flying from the roof of house, I'd never actually been not attached to a harness or something. And I'm not an acrobat. I'm a dancer, not an acrobat. So I'd never necessarily flipped. I've never had to use my body to do this thing. So I just enjoyed building a new body, but it still helped with my dance skill as well. It wasn't moving so far away that I couldn't still use all the movement. But yeah, it was a good time. And then at some point, I kind of did finally grow out of the class. And it was a friend of mine that suggested, like, oh, there's a competition in Hong Kong. Do you want to apply for it? And I was like, not really. I think that'll be terrifying. But the studio was doing a showcase, which is normal for a lot of studios. And I made a routine for the studio, which was quite scary, but I did it based on this character that I seem to always lean into, who's basically drunk. Just drunken characters are always fun. But she's just this sort of drunken woman. She's been in, I think, 3 of my pole routines now of like graduating ability. And it just gives this very fun play on accidentally doing something amazing, but then kind of pretending like you didn't mean to, which is, we see it in so many things, loads of clowns in Cirque, and this like accidental fall. But yeah, so I made that the first version of her for this showcase. Everyone liked my piece, used that video to get into the competition, and then did the competition, and then just sort of won it. And I didn't know where I was in the world of pole. I didn't know if I was good. I just knew that I'd won this competition in Hong Kong. So then it just snowballed. It was like I did another comp and then another comp, and then 2 years later, Cirque happened. So in terms of what you're saying about falling into new things, that is the epitome of just continually falling in a graceful way into pole dancing, basically.
So there was quite a lot of sort of lead up, I guess, before you got hired by Cirque to do that particularly. So in the meantime, you're learning and practicing pole, and then employment was what during that time?
So yeah, I did. I started in this space when I went back home to Chesterfield, which is in the middle of England, and I was waiting. So I'd finished House Dance in Water. I'd gone back to Romania to work on a couple of shows as a choreographer with my good friend Horia Suru. And I think that was that first thing. I'd been really, really lucky. Well, lucky / right place, right time, whatever, where I'd literally finished university. A year had passed. I'd done some work in London. House Dance in Water happened, which I will forever say was like doing a degree in technical theatre, because there was so much information. And then I kind of finally agreed to leave the show after 3.5 years and then go back into the what is life, what is artistry. And I do remember sitting in my house in London. I'd just come back from Romania this time, and I actually didn't have anything. Like, there was nothing on the horizon. I knew this show called Destiny was probably going to happen in Macau, but we didn't know when. The theatre was being built. I'd had a chat with the CEO of the new show to say, look, I'm interested, but let me know. So I had this terrifying but kind of freeing moment of just looking into the abyss. And I just went back on my laptop and I was like, what is happening? Where are shows? Who am I good for now? Like, now I've got these 4 years of working in this community of circus, which I didn't have before. Like, I'm now not just a dancer. I'm actually somewhat a generalist. Like I don't have a full skill yet. I'm not a pole dancer yet, but I just have all this information from the house dancing water, which is like invaluable. Like I must be useful. So I was just starting to try and sow the seeds of what is the next bit. And then out of nowhere, which was again, just so amazing, I got a Facebook message from Mukhtar Sharif, who was working with Cirque du Soleil at the time, and said, like, are you available for this event in Andorra in the summer? This was April, and the thing was supposed to happen in June. I was like, yes, I am. What? I was like, I've literally been asked by Cirque du Soleil to be in a Cirque show. It was a thing that we'd talked about forever. So I did that show. It happens every year, actually. It's an event in Andorra. I guess a lot of people would have seen it or been part of it. There's usually about 30, 40 people in the cast, and it's just sort of an ongoing contract in Andorra where they have a show built by Cirque du Soleil that I guess is for Andorra, about Andorra, and it's just a really brilliant contract, and I had an amazing time. So, but that was my seed of meeting Cirque du Soleil people for the first time.
How did Mukhtar know of you? Do you know?
He came to House Dancing Water to apply for the artistic director role. Not artistic director, artistic coordinator. He'd come over, so I'd met him there. But we'd sort of had a chat and got on at some point because he used to go, or at least started to go to university at the Place in London, which is where I went to university. So when I met him, I knew that he'd worked with Love in Vegas. So that was something I was really interested in at the time. I sort of wanted to know, like, where could my career go? And I was like, Love could be an option, maybe. I'm not sure. So I remember sort of trying to be a cutie little networker, but also be genuinely interested in who Mukhtar was. And I'm like, so I heard you used to work in Love. Tell me about it. So, but we'd got on because I guess we had the sort of London connection, and he's a lovely guy. He's a really nice guy, and I just really enjoyed chatting to him, asking him why he wanted to come to Macau, and he was asking me, like, how is it like in Macau? Like, what is life like in Macau? So I think we just got on. So I guess just by some magic twinkle dust, he'd remembered me, and then he just asked me, and like I said, it was just a really nice thing. So that's one of those networky things which I hate. I hate going to parties and trying to be nice to people. Like I'm really rubbish with this, trying to get information on people, but I guess that's one of those loops where it's genuine. Like I really was interested in who he was. Would he come and work for us? Trying to sell the show to him as well. I remember being like, don't worry about this because this will be really cool. And don't worry about this and your family will enjoy this. Like I do remember trying to get him because I liked him. So yeah, that was one of those nice networking things. So yeah, so he got me there. That's where I met Gab Dupree, who is one of my favorite humans in the universe. Amazing. Has worked in Cirque forever. Like his dad was the baby in Mystère. So he's been with Cirque forever. And we just had a really beautiful connection. I just wanted to know who he was. He was the stage manager of the show at the time. Just really liked him. He's just really funny. But yeah, we had a really cute connection of, I think, I didn't know anything about him. And I'd recently lost my dad, and I was still dealing. It'd been about 2 years, but I was still dealing with this information. And for whatever reason, because Gab is just a nice guy, I just told this to him. And I hadn't really told it to a lot of people that I didn't know because it wasn't the information I wanted to talk about. And then he had a lot to talk about how he'd recently lost his dad and how his dad was so important to him. So I think we just had, again, like a really pretty, very genuine connection of just remembering the people that we loved and sort of, again, working in this industry. I think your family depends on what your connection to your family is. Like, I think it really makes a difference to how you interpret the whole industry. Like, I think loss is really important to our industry. I think even if you make work about it or how you deal with it whilst trying to be happy and perform all the time, but you're actually having this massive grief, like it's really, I don't know, it's interesting, I guess. So that's where I met Gab and then did that thing. Then time passed, managed to get back to Cirque, to Macau. That show was a hot mess, but I learned a lot about that. And dealing with people that were annoyed because they thought they were in Macau to do this mega job and it just wasn't working. And then again, I'd been doing all my pole dance stuff. I'd started to get things. Gab was always watching, and then at some point he was like, look, we have a show, can you send us some of your new pole dancing stuff? And I think it was a year later that happened, that I got the Cirque contract as well. And that was amazing, because I'm like, I can't believe that within 2 years I've gone from no pole dancing at all to now working on, it was one of the cruise contracts with Cirque. And I was a main character and everything. I was like, this is actually my dream. This is my dream job. I'm a solo character in Cirque du Soleil. I get to be a character. I get to pole dance. I'm also the dance captain. This is the perfect where I need to be right now. Like, great. And then the world ended and shattered everything. Because COVID happened, and it's just as we'd done. We were just coming to the end of our 6 months contract, and I'd started talking to Cirque, saying like, look, I'm that I'm a choreographer. I'm already here as dance captain. Like, what can I do as like ship-wide? I think I was asking for things like, I don't know what it's called now. Like, he wasn't a rehearsal director, but the people that keep the shows clean, those people. And I was definitely being considered, and I think I was also being considered for maybe there was more shows with more ships, of like maybe being a choreographer or maybe coming up with concepts and stuff. So to me, I was really going up the food chain and exactly in the direction I wanted. And then COVID changed everything, and all the ship contract. Yeah, literally. Yeah, and all the ship contracts went away, because what was great about the ships was that I think it was a platform for Cirque to develop people, because I guess they were low risk in compared with the bigger shows and things. So I think it's where they put people to like, help them develop, see what they could do. That's what I felt like. And it was nice to be in that position of still being a creative, still being a performer, loving that I was performing every day, but then having this kind of like, I wasn't a coach, I wasn't the stage manager, but I had this sort of like bit in between. Yeah. Where I was, there to keep the cast sort of happy and be that face of like, okay, look, what can we do? Then in the evenings, we could talk with the coaches, and I would maybe talk with Gab occasionally to sort of like see what could be done. And I really like that troubleshooting part of stuff. And I think that's the one thing I don't have as much now with Florentina's work and stuff, because we just do everything in a very different way there. And I really like the whole new world I'm in with that. But I do a little bit miss this kind of over clean, over organized Cirque Dragone thing where everything is overscheduled, but somehow there's a real, I don't know, there's something nice in that sort of like that push to be absolutely perfect is something that I miss. And in Florentina, we do have a perfection, but we're a lot more punk, we're a lot more trashy, we're a lot more looking for not the perfect thing. So it's like two sides of a new world. And again, it's just, yeah, this is where I find myself.
Tell us about Florentina's production and the one that you've just been involved in. For how long? How long have you been in this show?
So The Year Without Summer, we just premiered in May. So this is brand new. But prior to that, there's 2 other big shows. So one thing I have to say about Florentina, which is essentially remarkable, is no director, especially in a contemporary setting, has made 3 shows in 3 years, back to back, huge shows. That's just weird. No one does that. No one has the money. No one trusts anyone to do 3 shows in 3 years. Ridiculous. So I've worked with Flo since after the world ended, and then there was the year of hell. and then it was like, what do I do now? And through your website, I found through Circus Talk, auditioning with Florentina Holzinger. I'm like, who is Florentina Holzinger? And it was just like, yeah, Florentina Holzinger needs circus artists. All right, general. And went back into the thing, and it said, like, we need people that are confident swimmers, ideally have a circus skill, can maybe sing and dance. Great. So I just wrote this email, and I didn't know who she was. Like, she was pretty established at that time within like German-speaking world from her show prior to the one that I was in, which is called A Divine Comedy. So I think that had really like gotten her into like, who is this woman? And then the thing I was most interested in was the Volksbühne, which is a really amazing theatre in central Berlin, which is sort of famed for being, well, Volks is a folk theatre. Being the theatre of the people, and the director of the theatre at the time, a guy called René Polish, if I'm sure I'm saying that really bad, he was also famed as one of the most amazing German contemporary directors, just for making sort of bizarre, interesting work that was just different. It was just different of its time. So I was like, if this woman is making new pieces at the Volkstheater, like the Volksbühne, like she has to have a lot behind it. Because all I could find was incredibly strange, very abstract videos on Instagram and YouTube that was covered with naked women covered in blood. That was basically all I could find. So I was just like, okay, she seems wild. Let's do this. So yeah, like a very long story short, I did an audition. It was just her and another woman called Renee. She asked me to improvise dance. She asked me to sing a song, and she asked me how long I could actually physically stay on an aerial pole without coming off at all. Turns out it's 8. Turns out it's 8 minutes. That was the only thing. She didn't ask me to show a routine. I had quite a few because I'd done some cabaret in London at the time. But she was like, no. Like, how long can you be on it for? It's just like, we will see.
Let's find out.
Yeah, 8 minutes. And then I didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And then I literally messaged her like, hey, Flo, like, do you want me? Because I was really like, I really had no money at this point. I was like, I'd just gotten like a really like basic cabaret in London. And she's like, oh, yes, can you start next week? I was like, Bleh. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So I had this bizarre year of commuting from London to Berlin and doing like a full week of Croatia with her, going back because I'd just got this cabaret, but I so desperately needed the money that I would go back and do 2 shows of a cabaret and then fly back again. But also flights were cheap. It was like Ryanair, like 30 quid return situation. So yeah, so that was Ophelia's Got Talent, which was the show that kind of got me in there. And it was sort of a dream show in a way, because that's where I have my own act is that I developed as my story of as an aerial pole. And it's all based around an incident that happened with my godfather. So this is, I'll try to do this as short as possible, but essentially my godfather was a deep sea diver. He actually built Hong Kong Airport 30 years ago. There was an incident where one of his team members was left under the sea for nearly 45 minutes because the boat that they work on, it just got wrapped around something under the sea and it snapped. And a team member was left there. And essentially there's a huge, amazing rescue where him and his friend went down. They literally got him back up into the bell, resuscitated him, and then brought him back to the surface. It's like a miracle, basically. That got made into a documentary called Last Breath, which I watched and I was amazed by it, and had previously made a pole dance routine on 2 poles for a competition that I won pole theatre with. And then when Flo saw that, she was like, can you recreate this for a single point aerial pole? And I was like, absolutely. So I remade the story. The original one was like kind of the entire film condensed into a 5-minute thing, which you can watch on YouTube, just saying. And the one that's in the show, the one that's in, there we go. The one that you can, that's in Ophelia, I made it all about Chris, who is the person that nearly died, because there's something amazing about the aerial pole and in the space of the Volksbühne, which is huge, of me sort of essentially being him, but in this sort of dark space, and it really looks like the abyss. So I wanted to make it more about him rather than the entire thing. So it's the same story, but just taught from a single point rather than everyone. So yeah, so in that show, I have my aerial pole. We swim a lot. We have a bit of magic in the show. I tap dance. I'm singing. I'm doing contemporary dance. We have harnesses. We have this helicopter that we fly up to with harnesses and pretend to be like on it. It's a big wild show. There's lots of stunts. And the single thing that I had to not get over, but just sort of accept, was that all of Flo's production, all the cast is naked. It's a full female cast, and we're all naked for the entire thing, bar pieces of costume should we need them. So in Ophelia, where it's all about the sea, essentially, So we have sailor outfits occasionally, but it's literally like a top or the bottom. It's just like hint of this, which is a brand new thing. I'd already been working for about 10 years at this point, but never have I ever, including in pole dance, ever had to perform naked for any reason. And that was just quite an amazing experience, because now, like I said, we're 3 shows in and nudity is so boring because what we do in the shows are so spectacular, so shocking. There's a lot of, I guess, Flo's interest in the study of women's bodies in different circumstances, essentially. Like in Ophelia's Got Talent, it is a lot about the female body, how it's portrayed in art. Often women, they, like in Shakespeare or in sea tales, they're always hysterical. They're always, if they die, they kind of, it's because they've gone mad and they've, or they've been tormented from a man, or they've been trying to kill a man. There's always this sort of very fruity thing, whereas if a man kills himself in art, it tends to be incredibly heroic, has to shoot himself, he has to fall in his own knife. It's something like this. So that's the sort of study of women within water context, within art, hence all the water stuff. The second show, SANCTA, which is an opera, and this is the one that kind of went viral for its content. It's about the Catholic Church and it's about mass, sort of a study of mass. And there's somewhere written, it's the best way I could describe it, is Florentina says something in an interview where she says, it's amazing that there's no trigger warnings when you go into a church, when you see this image of Jesus Christ with nails in his hand, a bleeding forehead, and a stab in his side. And it never has anyone ever questioned as a child if this is appropriate. But this is an image that we've had and known about. So what I really enjoy about that show is we basically take lots of parts of the Bible and of Mass for what it is. So we do have blood work in the show. We do have a small surgery in the show. We have a lot of really graphic imagery. But I think all it is just taking what it is, but then really expanding on it to make it like, this is really what it is. This is what religion is explained to you. And at no point do we take the piss out of Catholicism. We don't do that. We're actually fairly, in our opinion, very respectful of what it is. I'm sure a lot of people would be very upset that roller skating naked nuns would be quite blasphemous. But, but I have to say, for all of Flo's work, there is some level of humor with everything. There's no need to tear into anything, really. Like there's always a humor. I think this is one of her genius things. Is like, we do take the piss, we do push it, but there's no need to be like, we're not saying that anything is wrong, like, at all. We don't need to. It's just pushing the boundaries. And then this one, The Year Without Summer, this is really about the female body and how it ages and facing some taboos of what that means. And this one seems to be the softer one. In reviews, it's definitely been like, wow, she's really calmed down. And I'm like, I don't think she has, but sure. It just seems more beautiful. It seems more subtle. But one of the key things with this is like, where the cast changes all the time, by the way. We're not the same cast. It's just that I happen to be in these 3 pieces. But this one, we have a company of about 17 of us, let's say, and we're all different ages, between about 27 and 50 something. But then we have an older cast of about 8 elderly women who like to be called the BOPs, the BOPs, the Birds of Paradise. This is what they like to call themselves, because they didn't want to be called the older ladies, which is fair enough. So the BOPs, they range from about 78 to 84. And of course, as per all of Flo's productions, they're also nude throughout the performance. And we open that show with a 20-minute non-simulated orgy. That's what it is. So again, something that I really never thought I would do ever. I never thought I'd have to, but never didn't want to do it necessarily. But I'm also, just for the record, I'm straight, but the entire company is a company of women. So this is where I love our company for this, is like, because of, I think, what we do and what we stand for, I think that there is just a huge level of respect in terms of being able to communicate in this 20-minute scene what we're okay with, what you don't do. Like, do you feel okay? Like all these sort of markers that don't completely take away from when we had to do scuba diving in Dragone. Like, do you feel okay? Can you give me a hand signal? Like all these safety measures. So yeah, so every show, and we do like usually the most shows we've done in a row is about 5. But like every day we sort of check in with our partner or partners. So like, how are you feeling today? What's going on? Are you on your period? Like, like these kind of things. Like, what do I feel like doing today? And I don't know, it is quite beautiful. It is something that I just, again, never thought I would be able to do actually, but it's just another performance element. And again, the response from it has been really positive. It's really, I mean, I'm trying to imagine as an audience walking into a show and the first 20 minutes of it is this. And a lot of people say it's really beautiful. It's really tender. It's really humbling. Like, it's not aggressive. It's just a load of movement, and it's not brightly lit or something like this. It's actually like really, really calm. The start of the show is extremely calm, and there's loads of haze, so you can see what's going on. But there's sort of varying elements of that. But I don't know. I like this sort of extremity of it. Like I said, it's. I think it's hard for people to imagine doing something so intense and personal on stage. But this has really pushed my little acting brain. The one thing I've never really been able to do in my whole career is to really act. And I had to make a choice when I was younger. Like, do I act or do I dance? And I chose dance. So there's always been this little bit of me that's been like, oh, I really want to do something real. So I didn't know that this would be what it was. But there's a lot of things going on in this moment of like, how real is it for me? Like, how am I enjoying this? Hopefully, yes. And what am I performing? Am I giving this extreme persona, or I'm actually being quite delicate to who I am in this situation? While you have 1,000 people watching, it's quite. Yeah,
wow, it's not right something out there, man.
Yeah, like I don't know, like it's not something that I feel like you would experience in a circus world, because circus world is very showbiz. Even though a lot of it, especially when you think of clowning, it really comes from a personal, deep-rooted moment, but everything's very stylized. And in this sense, like, I think it's the most unstylized thing you could do to produce either a simulated or non-simulated sex scene on stage. It's very personal. And you have to be a certain kind of person. Yeah. I think it comes from maturity as well, to be honest.
But also I think that like every performer that steps on a stage has to have a level of vulnerability, right? And I think that it's just to how much exposure and honesty does somebody want to give to the world. And I think that's for everybody's choices in terms of pushing boundaries. Obviously, Florentina has a very clear vision about how she wants to work with women and what she wants to say. And what incredible, I mean, I haven't seen any of the shows, but the themes that you just explained are just incredible, because, you know, we have to constantly challenge women's, all of the unconscious biases and the things that we exist as women, and we're barriers that we're breaking, or the construct of even what a woman is. And, you know, we're still very new in that exploration, I think, in terms of history, right?
Yeah, I think as well, when I look back into my career as well, I feel like just by chance, the majority of things that I've done have had lots of strong women leading it. Like, or I'm not sure it's because I necessarily chose that. It just, hopefully this is the magical industry that I find myself, that there happens to be lots of strong women in powerful places, and they're the ones calling the shots. And also the guys, because the one thing that like I always need to remind even my cast members of is most of our company, including the technicians, are female as well. That is a choice of flow to kind of look specifically for women. And all of them are unreal. They're so incredible. Like in SANCTA, we have a robot, like an actual, you know, the robots that build cars. And Flo, by some miracle, found exactly the girl that programs the robot. Like, her dad is one of the developers that built it. It's the same, you know, the robot that's in Messi, the Messi show, and it was a Helena Fisher show. We have Helena Fisher's robot. But of course, the person that programs that is an amazing person called Zoe, who is also a live streamer. She does like Boiler Room and all these things. She's one of the most highly skilled technicians I've ever met in my life.
That's super cool.
No, it's super cool. But also we do have a bunch of guys working with us in the show, like a couple of the riggers, a couple of the technical directors. And of course, every venue we go to is heavily men. Of course it is, because it's, it's theatre mostly in Germany. And I have to remind everybody how respectful everyone is. Like, we as a company just walk around naked all the time. Like, even in rehearsals, someone's usually just a bit naked or something, which is completely unusual. And I have to remember that that's not normal to actually be that naked most of the time. And never have we ever, at least how I've been there, had a problem with any member of a theatre at all. There's people that are confused. Some people are just not comfortable with it, but they're good at doing their job. Like, I've only ever had one guy, and that was a pole competition somewhere in the UK, where he was running lights and he just could not be a dickhead the whole time. He had to say something. And it was just so derogatory the whole time that at some point I really was like, I was there as the MC, but I was like, if he actually doesn't be quiet, I'm actually just going to have to tell him just to get off stage, because he was being so derogatory. And that was with pole dancing and women with clothes on. Like, all the venues, I think you have to throw respect to a lot of the guys that are completely our allies here. Like, I don't like it when people just say, oh, women are this, or men are this, or whatever is this. I'm like, no. Let's stop with this generalization. That's not how it is. We've all worked with incredibly respectful people that even if they don't like what you're doing, they're not going to just rain on your parade. They've also got a job to do. And I always like to highlight, like, the strength of the industry in that time, because it's not just this or just that. Like, we still have to work as a team, and that's how the industry should be going. It's not that we need to be comparing ourselves for our art or how technically good we are at things. And I do have to remind, there's a handful of our cast members that have had horrible pasts regarding men, and they are quick to pick up on that. And that's fair enough. I get that. But I think you have to sort of just wash away the past sometimes. But like, yes, there's been people that have been this horrendous, but then we have to learn from it. And working with Flo in the last few years, it's really helped me to figure out when something isn't fair as a woman, or even my own, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, I didn't want to do pole dancing originally because I was like, it's a bit girly. I don't want to do that. I'm like, what the hell? Soph, what?
You had all these unconscious biases built up in your own brain that have been fed to you by society about what pole dancing was, right? There's so many, that's
exactly.
the thing. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating what you say, but I also think that's where, for what you speak about with the technicians and the venues, arts is such a precious place for people to respect the fact that you're making an art piece, right? It's not, if you're coming into the space and you're going to help you run an art piece, even as a technician, then no matter what you think, we've all done plays that we didn't particularly like, but we were still the stage manager. we did, you know what I mean? We did lighting for, I used to do program lighting for ballet seasons many years ago when I was starting out. And I didn't particularly like watching, 3-year-olds do their dance routines on the ballet at the end of the ballet season. But, this is what you do, and you respect that everybody's in their own phase and their own, all respect, creating art or performing. And that's why, in some sense, it can then become that safe space. And like you said, you can't generalize that, because there are people that are outliers and they're going to bring their attitudes and their biases. But you got to remember that's all built on a culture that has been indoctrinated to them and that they haven't broken free from yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, exactly, like the saying that is like they haven't broken free from. Like, I think in my whole career, if I really sort of look back of it, like, every single time there's had to be a genuine reinvention of myself or an opportunity to, I always fall back into the same person essentially, but there's always been a little bit of like, I don't know, like space dust that is like, I've left it gone somewhere. Because I mean, I think for a lot of people in this industry, you've moved house, God knows how many times, you've moved countries, you've had to walk into a new venue where you genuinely don't know anybody there, and you can present the version of you that you want to. And I've definitely done that. I've definitely, walked into a building like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, hi, I'm Sophie Duncan, I'm this, la, 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 la. And I think that my fundamentals have always stayed there's always stuff around it that's just always had to change, because you can't just be one person through this whole industry. At least I don't believe. Like, you are fundamental, and your morals are what they are. But I think the more you understand about yourself, the more you understand about the work you want to make, you either, add on a new layer, or you just take off a new one. Like, you just can't be the same person. I don't know how you'd manage. Like, if I was the same person I was when I was 22 and got into Dragone, like I thought I was an absolute genius anyway, because I'd just done my degree, because everyone that's done a degree, clearly you know everything about the thing that you're about to do, because everyone thinks they do that. And then you step into your first like big job, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't really know anything. Okay. Like, so it's great to continually learn and add on. And I think that's something we all talk about in our careers, is like, the more you do, the more you learn, the more you let go of other stuff as well. Like, the more you realize that maybe what you learned at school, or you were told when you were 14, or this thing that happened to you that you've been like absolutely like killing yourself for a few years, you've been like, actually, that just didn't really matter. Like, it just wasn't that deep. Like, maybe I've learned from this. And this is the thing with flow. Like, I think I have really understood that I potentially even still am. Like, I am a misogynist in certain ways, like nowhere near as much as I used to be. But taking the pole dance example as one of them, like, if I'd been that deep rooted into what I really thought pole dancing was, and really not understanding what the industry was, I wouldn't have worked with Cirque du Soleil. I wouldn't be doing pole dancing now. I might not be working with Florentina. Like, I could have ruined my whole career just by being a bit dismissive, which is super lame. It's really lame. And again, with every new cast member that we have in Florentina's company, like, it's not a company of dancers or circus people. It's a company of absolute weirdos and punks. That's basically what it is. We have, we have a piercer, we have sword swallowers, we have performance artists, we have opera singers, like divas. Oh my Lord. Divas. Wow. That was a whole world to step into as well when we did the opera. Fun. We have cabaret artists. We just have everything. We have rock stars. We're not a company of people that can all dance. So in Ophelia, there's only 12 of us in that show, but all of us dance. We do like a really extremely technical piece of Russian dance that realistically, I would argue that within that company, in that piece, technically, I would be the strongest dancer in terms of just because of my degree. But can I do that dance? Hell no. Like, definitely not. But definitely the harpist can't do it. The cellist can't do it. The actor, the sword swallower can't do it. But do we do it? Yes, we do. And this is this sort of fake perfection that I do like from flow, which we don't have from Dragone and Cirque and things, is like, flow does not care about things being perfect, because it's perfect in its wrongness.
Yeah, that's part of the art.
This is something. Yeah, and again, in terms of like sort of changing my mind of what a show is and what you need to be, I came with my head of, I've worked with Cirque du Soleil, I've worked with Dragone, and this is how we do stunts, and this is how we make things. And I walked into Flow's sort of workshop, I guess, to make Ophelia. One of the first things we had to do was try on some mermaid tails for the show. And I just met the whole company, like just that second. And the designer was like, can you try this on? So Flo, I just really re-met her in person in time. And she was like, fine. Took all her clothes off, got completely nude. No one did anything. Because it clearly was so normal. To me, absolutely the most abnormal thing I've ever seen. My new boss, my director, was just nude. And then she was like, do you want to try on a tail? And I was like, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. So I just sort of like got nude and just pretended like I was completely fine with everything. Not fine. I was just like, this is fucking. And just put the tail on, carried on. How did it feel? Is it comfortable? Like, yes, it's fine. And then carried on with my day. And I was so annoyed that I didn't get a medal or a well done for being naked on your first day certificate. I was like,
I just did a lot today. I need to be thanked. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, if you go and tell me to go make a new routine on my pole for a whole day, it would have been a nightmare, but I've done it. Doing this, it absolutely blew my mind. And then it just got more and more and more. And again, like, this is not how I make shows. I don't know how to make shows. So the whole making of Ophelia, there was some stuff that I put in of like, I had all this stuff. I've got you ringing in my head basically from like how to make sure that shows are safe. So, and there was loads of rigging that I was like, that can't be right, and this doesn't feel right. So there was a lot of stuff that I was saying, can we do it like this? Could we do it like this to be safe, to whatever? But I also realized that is not what this company is. It's not Uber. Like, it is safe, just for the record, it is safe, but it's not the level of Cirque and things like this where everything is like wild. It's enough for what it is, and I kind of implemented certain things that I think helped for the production, but I knew straight away that this is not the kind of company where you rock up and you give up all your things and you say, this is how it is. No one's going to listen to you. No one's going to respect you. And also, no one should do that in any place. Like, I think you could always give your idea and say, this is what I believe would be the best option, but, you know, you do you at this time. And when it comes to my own safety, then I'll do all of my own checks and everything. But I mean, when it comes to everything else, like, you can't just walk into any new business or whatever and just throw your stuff on the table.
You've literally just described cultural intelligence, right? Like, that is how. No, but that's what it is. You've got to respect. I've said this before in other podcasts or whatever, but like, you don't walk into somebody else's church with your religion, right? And so I love that saying, because it's just a way to approach any kind of culture, whether it be a country's culture, a person's culture, a company's culture. Yeah. When you come into that space, you have to respect the environment that you've been welcomed into, and of course bring your contribution and whatever. But there's got to be that willingness to be flexible to a certain extent, or you won't be able to work internationally. You won't be able to work with new companies. Yeah. And I think I want to go back to, you know, your comment about being dismissive of pole dancing and how it may have affected your life. No, but I think it's really important, because if people form their opinions and they put themselves in boxes too early in their career, then they may lose out on the depth and the richness and the opportunities by being a certain mindset or a certain way. And one of the life of an artist is to be constantly challenging your own thoughts and constantly challenging your own paradigm and what you think and whatever. And then not only do it as an artist, you're not only challenging all those things, but then expressing those questions and putting them on stage for the audiences to then receive that. And so I think all of that is just so super cool. And I think that your ability to let go of some certain, you know, ingrained thoughts, identify them and let them go as your journey has also assisted in you growing as an artist and growing in the industry. And I mean, I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the next 20 years, Sophie.
For me too. I mean, I'm definitely in a state of flux. Like, I've literally just, like, I've been working solidly for the last 6 months on the new production. And then, like, now I've been like, I really want to make something, because, again, working with flow, because everything is so new all the time and everything is so chaotic, and it's really extreme compared to all the sparkly things from other shows. Like, it's really blown my mind. Like, as a creator, I've been a bit unable to create in a way, because it's such a new thing. It's a bit like if working at Halt in Water was like getting another degree in technical theatre. Working with Florentina is like getting another degree in what the hell is this? Like, like, because it is just so extreme, and, like, you know, there is all this blood work and there's sex and there's violence and there's music and rah, it's like, it's so much. So it's, again, trying to figure out, and there's loads of it I love, like, you know, but there's sort of one thing that I've always remembered and sort of pushed for, and it hilariously comes from watching a program about dogs and the relationship with the world. Like, there's always this saying, I think, in theatre, that you have to be, you know, like, you have to be strong, and, like, as a leader you have to do this and blah blah. And this sort of, you know, survival of the fittest, basically, this kind of thing. And you hear it all the time, like, you know, the fittest, the strongest, they're the ones that get everything done. And you sort of have this image of directors that you think, oh, yeah. And then, but when I look back into my career, and I guess how I like to approach it, and I feel like has been continually helping me grow, is I will quote this movie about dogs it's about the survival of the friendliest. This is something else. And I know it sounds so stupid, but to compare my career to dogs, which I think is fine. Is like the reason why dogs kind of came into our lives was because they were wolves, but then they realized that humans were useful. And if they started like bending their ears down and having the whites of their eyes shown, then they would get given food. And then if they helped man, then they would do that. And then man were like, oh, these animals are great for us. Let's work together. And it just sort of went in like that. And I think when you apply it, even though it's, about dogs growing and evolving, like, I think the survival of the friendliest is such like, if you really think about it, I think it's really the best way of, for me, explaining how to navigate this world, because no one has gotten anywhere by being an asshole. Yes, we learn about all these people. Like Walt Disney was supposed to be a bit of an ass. Like Dragone famously can blow his top. Like loads of creators can just be like, Maria Abramovich, whatever. But fundamentally, you also hear about their kindness and how they manage to get things through. Everyone goes wild occasionally. We get that. But like, there's lots of performers who have done the dirty on me or tried to be like annoying. And then whenever I thought like, if I could hire somebody, absolutely no way would these people ever come in my life again. I only think of the people that, yeah, they've gotten stressed, but they've carried on. They're incredibly talented. Yes, they might go into a box sometimes and just be like, I cannot do this today. And you go, cool, talk to me in a bit. Like, it's the friendly people that are still amazing at their jobs, that can still blow up in your face and apologize later, that you want to work with and you want to play with and you want to call sometimes. And I think this is like the survival of the friendliest is I think, for me, the best way to try and navigate the industry, because there's no way I would be talking to you if we hadn't had a good relationship 10 years ago, or Gab, or Mukhtar, or any of these people. Because if they didn't like me and they didn't feel like I was being genuine, they wouldn't want to talk to me ever again. And that's fair. And I know there's a couple of people that I've was in a bad place. I pissed them off and they'll never talk to me again. I get it. It's my fault. I did that. Fine. But I wish I hadn't. And I would apologize to them again to try and make the connection better again. There are people that we can always just move out within our creative life and in our personal life. But I think it's just better to do something bad and apologize and be genuine than let things just. So
I love that.
We've all worked for companies that do that. So yeah, just think about dogs. Just think about dogs.
And with that we've run out of time, and I think that's the perfect ending to a podcast with Sophie Duncan. The dog analogy. That's survival of the friendliest.
Survival of the
so good.
Exactly.
Sophie, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure to see you again and see your evolution in this industry and what you're doing. And I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I hope it's useful to anyone that's listening. Go and pat a dog. That's it.
Thank you for listening to the StageLink podcast. StageLink is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLink Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLink podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLink Pro membership. Visit us at stagelink.com, and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLink, that's STAGELYNC.com.